Okay, I picked up these two fat quarters from Walmart a while back ago. And in fact, I think I purchased them last year and forgot about them. They are really cute little patriotic themed fabrics. This one says America all over it. And this one is obviously just a cute little gingham with stars. And I think these were about $1.50 a piece. So that's really reasonable. And I know that they have some other ones this year that I saw there. And then I pulled some rickrack out of my stash. You probably saw these if you saw my little haul from the garage sale a few weeks back, where I found a vintage sewing box and it was full of vintage rickrack. So I pulled a couple different ones out. Look how adorable this tiny, tiny rickrack is. I'm not sure what I'm going to use or if I'm going to use any of it, but this is my start, and I'm going to start laying things out to get a little inspiration. All right, I have decided to go with this white American print for my bodice, and I've gone ahead and cut out a second piece of bodice for the back in just a plain white material. Check out my video that I'll link above and in the description on how to make a dog dress pattern for your dog. What I want to do is take my back piece of the bodice away and just work on my front piece here. I thought that this would be really cute to add some rickrack across the front of this bodice, alternating between red and blue, maybe about an inch apart. And then, so I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting lengths of this that will fit all the way across where I lay them. So then I would take my red, oops, I'm just kind of getting an idea right now. And I'll have another red one down here, and I'll cut that off. I'm cutting it a little bit longer, as you can see here, just so I have some wiggle room. And some blue again. And at this point, you can continue to add the rickrack up the neck straps, but I don't find that that will be necessary. So I think I'm gonna do one more down here of blue. About there, because remember this little section here, about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, will be caught in the seam allowance of the skirt. So you don't really need to worry about that. And right here, I think I'm just gonna line this up nice and straight and sew it along here and then skip across and do here. Or you can cut this section out so you don't use as much, but this will end up getting cut off. But just be mindful of your seam allowance at the base of the bodice and the top, and align your rickrack accordingly. So I'll move this one down just a hair, as well as this one. And just be sure to space it out as evenly as you'd like. Once you have it where you like it, just go ahead and pin it in a few places. Once you have it pinned into place where you like it, go ahead and bring it to your sewing machine and stitch from one end of the rickrack, going down the center of the rickrack all the way to the other end. Use a coordinating thread. So I'll use blue on this one and red on this one. An easier way to do it would be to do the blue ones first, and then switch your thread out and do the red ones. And back from the sewing machine, and that went really well. Very easy to stitch those on, especially since I pinned them into place beforehand. And you could sit there and examine them and make sure they're perfectly centered and level, but you know what? In the end, that won't even make a difference. So I'm just going around here and cutting off the excess rickrack. And I think that it's really cute. I love the texture that this provides, and I think it's just fun. Also, cut this little bit here in the neckline out. But when I was stitching mine on, I just went straight across that rickrack. It just made it really easy. Now for the skirt, I think it might be kind of fun to cut my material, both sets of material, because I still have quite a bit left here of the bodice material. But I think it might be fun to cut them into strips and attach them together to have vertical stripes of material coming down as the skirt. So determine the length that you need your skirt according to your dog's measurements, and cut strips out. And these can be as wide or as narrow as you want. And I think that I'm gonna cut mine to about 2.5 inches, all of the strips. I have my piles of strips cut up to 2.5 inches. And now I am going to bring them over to my sewing machine. And as I sew along, I'm gonna alternate the material like this. So I'll take this one here, my first one, and flip the second one on top of it, good side spacing, and do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then flip it back over. When it's open, I will take the third piece of fabric and place it good side facing good side of this strip, 1/4 inch seam allowance, open it up, and continue to do this until I have all of my strips of material connected. Now, if you have material that is designed in a way that the words need to be one way or the design, you should pay attention to that when you cut your strips out. Mine can kind of go any way. You see this has USA going this way and America that way. However, this strip, everything seems to be facing that way. So if it bothers you, you'll need to pay attention when you're cutting your material. But it doesn't bother me, and this skirt's gonna be gathered up some, so I think it'll be just fine. I ended up cutting 6 strips, 2.5 inches wide of each material. So 6 of the red gingham and 6 of this white America print. And I cut it to the length that I need it to be, allowing for seam allowance at the bottom and the top. And you can determine how long you want this row to be on how fluffy and gathered you want your skirt to be. But like I said, for me, I went ahead and cut 6 of each of these at 2.5 inches. So I'm gonna bring them to my sewing machine and stitch them all together. Okay, I think it looks really cute. I like these vertical stripes. So as you can see here at the bottom, they're kind of wonky still because I didn't cut them perfectly to length. So all you need to do is cut those straight across using a ruler and a rotary cutter, or you can use your scissors, whatever works best for you. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but in order to hem the bottom of this, I'm going to want it to be somewhat straight. There, that looks better. Now, if you're curious about how wide this skirt is in comparison to my dog's bodice, I'll measure it up here. So from side strap to side strap, I've got about 1 and I'd say 1/4. Yeah, about 1 1/4 of this length. It's not going to be a super gathered skirt. I always gather them between the arm straps, so it'll have some gather, but not extremely. So your skirts don't always have to have a lot of gather to them. They still look just as lovely with a slight gather. So the next step, I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine and hem the bottom edge here, as well as both sides. All right, I've hemmed the bottom and the sides of my skirt here, both sides. And while I was at the sewing machine, I ran a top stitch all the way across the top of the skirt here, using my largest stitch size and my tightest tension, and that gives it a nice gather. I did not back stitch at the front or the end because these little tail strings can help us to gather our skirt up even further if we need it to be a little tighter. So we separate the front string from the back string, and I'm going to do that a little bit. So the way I determine how gathered I want my skirt is by my bodice. The outer edge of these side straps is where I try to keep the gather, right in between here. So I'm almost there. I'm gonna push the back string to the back and only pull on the top thread here. Before we can attach the skirt, we need to close off our bodice. So I'm going to bring back my back side of the bodice here. And with the front side facing upward, I'm gonna have the front side of the bodice facing downward so that they're facing each other. Good sides of material facing. Of course, with the white material, there really isn't a way to tell which is good or bad. But if you had a print, you would want to put the print facing the print on the bottom. So I've got it all lined up here. I'm just gonna clip it in a few places. And I'll take it to the sewing machine and close it off from side strap all the way around to side strap, leaving the bottom open. Okay, I have my bodice closed off completely. I've pressed it. Don't forget to check out the video that I'll link above and in the description on how to completely make a dog dress from start to finish. It goes into a lot of detail and you'll find it really helpful if you've never done one before. Okay, so now it's time to attach our skirt. So in order to do that, I'm gonna flip this bodice back piece out of the way, take my skirt and flip it upside down as we always do, and center it between these side straps and clip it all into place. So now I'm going to go ahead and stitch along this edge here using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance to attach my skirt to my bodice. All right, my skirt is attached. And so now with this facing backside up, I'm gonna go ahead and close off the bodice by taking this back piece, folding it under one time to hide this rough edge of skirt. I'm going to fold it to cover it up all the way to the seam that I just made attaching the skirt. And then I'm going to put in a few pins to hold it into place. That way I can bring it over to my sewing machine and sew it all together to make it nice and clean and neat. Don't forget to tuck in your side straps here as well one time and clip or pin those together. And once you have it all pinned into place, go ahead and run a stitch line all the way along this bottom edge of the bodice to attach it all. As you can see, this looks nice and clean in the back now that I've closed it off. So I'm going to flip it to the front, and you guessed it, to hide this seam here, I'm gonna use some more rickrack. I'm just gonna run this rickrack right across the waistline and across the strap here. In retrospect, I think I would have thought about the placement of this waistband of rickrack and put these sets a little higher, but I still think it's gonna be fine. And then as a finishing touch, I have this little pre-made bow that I purchased at Walmart a while back ago, but I see them there all the time. I'm gonna attach this to my waistband. You can put it dead in the center or to the side. I always like mine to the side. And I'm going to add some Velcro closures to the waistband and the neck straps. Okay guys, there it is. I think it turned out really lovely. I'm very happy with it. I love the addition of the rickrack and also putting these two different materials together. I think it just gave the skirt a little special touch. And of course, I love bows. You still have plenty of time to put together a dress for your dog for the 4th of July. So head over to your local fabric store or Walmart and see what 4th of July themed materials you can put together to make your pup a 4th of July dress. Let's head outside and see what Miss Posey looks like in her new festive dress. Posey, do you like your new dress? I think it turned out lovely. Come here. Come on. Come here, get a little treat. I think it turned out really cute, guys. I'm happy with it. And I think she's gonna look super festive on the 4th of July. Posey, here. Are you gonna look festive on the 4th of July? She's clearly treat motivated. Well, I hope that you guys will give this a try, and please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel because we post a new video every week on how to make your dog a beautiful dress. Thanks for watching.